Okay, we're live.
Oh, that
Boom.
quick. All right.
Yeah.
How's it
Um,
going?
it's good. It's good. So, is it super hot over there? Is that what I heard?
It is super hot out here. It's 107 degrees. I think that's the index. Um, just going outside is brutal. Tomorrow, luckily, I have a day off though. I'm going fishing, so I'm taking a good friend of mine. He's one of the barbers that does
Hmm.
my son's hair, and he's
Oh,
never been
okay.
fishing before. So we're gonna go out there early in the morning, 5 in the morning. So try to catch some good carnivore food.
Oh, that's awesome. Fishing is cool. Well, that seems like a very fun hot day activity.
It's very
But
relaxing.
why so early? I mean, do fish only get up at like 5 a.m. or what's that
Well,
about?
with the Texas heat, they're kind of like us. They have a feeding time, and it's usually when it's cool and early. When the sun comes out, they're not
Hmm.
going to come out either, So they're going to be hiding in the shade somewhere, and so it's good to get them in the morning, or sometimes you go in the
And
evening.
wait, I'm sorry. How are fish hot? I mean, they're in the water. The water is only, the temperature it is. Like, why do they need to be in the shade?
You'll be surprised, I guess. Maybe what are they, cold-blooded animals? I can't remember. I don't know the whole biology behind it. But from what I'm learning is that they love being in the shade, or if it's cooler temperatures, then that's when some will come out though. You'll be surprised,
Hmm.
if it's a hot day, you have to find them like in the bushes or the tall grass or
Hmm.
maybe under a deck or anything. So they're
Hmm.
hiding in there under rocks maybe. So it's good to go in the mornings and it's a all day thing pretty much. I don't try to be out there too long. When the sun comes out,
Hmm.
then that's when it's time for me to go.
Yeah. Yeah. All
So I
right.
went
Well,
and got some worms. Yeah,
I wish you
got some
great,
worms today. hmm
I wish you great luck, and I hope that you catch tons of fish.
Oh, it's the carnivore way of living. I
Yeah.
love it.
Do you specialize in any type of fish, or is it any kind?
Anything that gets us on the hook. I'm not really a big catfish person. I like these fish called bluegills.
Hmm.
They're very beautiful fish too, and they have a good taste to it. So it kind of reminds me of tilapia. So it has
Hmm.
the same taste of tilapia, and they're not too big, not too small. It's good for even kids to go out there and catch them.
Hmm.
So those are my favorite ones to catch.
All right. Cool. All right, well, we got a few people here in the room, so I want to say hey to Black Focused and hey to the Pandemic Carnivore. Love
Ah,
it. Good to see you guys. And for all of you watching, welcome back to the Black Carnivore YouTube channel. I'm really excited to be here today with Rashad, otherwise known as at Carnivore Junkie. And
mhm.
he also has a podcast, Black Health Media, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And we are here today, and we're going to talk. Well, we shifted the schedule a little bit. So today, we're going to talk about mental health and carnivore in the Black community. And I think we have some interesting takes on it. So, we're going to just like have a few minute chat here and then, start taking questions and open up the conversation. So, let's get started.
Let's get started.
Hmm.
So
So, yeah, go ahead,
go
Rashad.
ahead. Oh, you're fine. Go ahead.
Well, so the reason why I was thinking about this is that I had a conversation earlier this week. I've started seeing a coach to kind of help me with developing new self care habits. Basically, I feel like I started eating sugar so early, and that became like my emotional tool for everything. And I feel like in my family, my mom had a lot of sugar. My grandfather was actually an alcoholic. And so, a lot of people had different strategies for dealing with stress, but not, particularly strong ones or healthy ones. And
Mm,
so I feel like now that I am doing the carnivore, way of eating, and I've taken out sugar, and I've taken out all the things that I might have leaned on. I'm now left with my feelings, and I have to just
mm,
deal with them. And so I decided to like kind of get some intensive coaching on sort of learning new skill sets and incorporating these into my life. But when I was talking to the coach and I was sort of kind of talking through whether whether this would be helpful for me, and whether it was something I would want to do. I was talking to her particularly about emotional eating, and she was saying, and she was saying, well, that's something that tends to go back to childhood, so it takes a long time to work on those issues, but you chip away at them and you work on developing these other skill sets, and and I said, well, okay, and I said, but she asked if I'd had a, like a traumatic childhood. And I said, well, not really. I mean, I grew up with just my mom, but, otherwise, like, she had a great job, and, there was money, and it wasn't like I, was, um, uh, didn't, it wasn't taken care of in the most basic sense. But I said, so everything was fine, but I did go to a very expensive, exclusive white private school, girls' school, from kindergarten to 12th grade. And I didn't feel safe or protected, around race or class, frankly, while I was there. And, and I started at kindergarten. So, I'm like navigating this stuff as a 5, 6 year old, which, is obviously impossible. And I was like, but whatever. Like that was just my childhood. And she was like, oh my God, that is like a profound and major trauma. That's
Mhm.
along the lines of being, sexually abused or,
Mm.
beaten. Like not feeling safe in a place that you spend, all day long for years at a time that's major. So, you should accept that. And then she also said that because of what's all of that's going on now, and of course every time we watch a video of someone being lynched in the streets, or all of these videos of police brutality, it's just re-triggering those initial traumas. And that really made me start thinking, like, the challenges that I've been having, certainly around eating over the last 2 months, it's like, oh, there's a lot going on here, and the
Mhm.
need to feel safe. I mean, that's a human desire, um, and right now, I mean, in many ways, I feel less safe than I ever have in my entire life, and so finding ways to feel safe again is super important. So
Mm.
I don't know. Those are some of the things that have been going through my mind. But I realize that I feel like we as Black people don't really acknowledge and state like the tremendous pressure that we are under, and how
Right.
traumatic that is in our day to day lives, and accept that that's going to have some real it's going to show up in our mental health. And then,
Mhm.
and our brains are not separate from our bodies. So if our bodies are sick, that means our brains are all the less able to deal with those challenges.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. When I hear different stories of, because it could be subjective what each individual go through when it comes to childhood trauma and how it affects the way you think, even eating. Because when we eat these comfort foods, that's exactly what they are. They comfort foods because maybe we didn't get the help, we didn't get the counseling that we should have had, or maybe we'd had needed someone to talk to. And talking to a lot of people, I understand that just having someone to talk to uh, makes a huge difference. Where it's like, wow, I feel like a whole weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I think we, as me growing up in the South, we hear all these different stories like the South, and where there's a lot of heavy racism and anything like that. I don't know how is that different from New York, but it does play a role because, for example, let me give you an example where maybe I'm driving, and this happened several times. I remember driving in a neighborhood, and a police pulls me over. This one neighborhood is like 4 or 5 times in the same area, and he was like, "What are you doing in my neighborhood?" And I was like, "I'm passing through. I'm going to work." And so I get these different questions, and a lot of people don't understand the fear that we face because they don't have that same fear. If they get pulled over, they get argued back. Us, me, it leaves that trauma that hasn't been resolved in my mind. So now, pulled over 3 times. The fourth time pulled over, I have this anxiety. I'm nervous. After I'm leaving that day, you know what? I'm still feeling the anxiety. I'm still feeling, the heart beating fast, the numbness in my legs, and I'm ready to calm those nerves down. And what do I go to? I go to food. I go to some comfort food. I go get some. The best thing is bread. And it's like, oh, it feels so good when I eat this burger with bread and some sodas with it. And and over a period of time, it becomes like a snowball effect where we're not getting the mental health that we have, but also we are destroying our bodies with the foods and everything that we're eating from it. So it's and here I could share a little bit of my childhood, how I came to a way of eating bad to eating a little bit better. I grew up in a really, really, I had to emphasize really, really uh, religious household.
Hmm.
And a lot of things was I was never taught why, because I would question a lot, and I was kind of considered like the person that's the black sheep because I was rebel because I didn't get any answers. So
Hmm.
and so I was um I was asking why, and the responses I usually get from the religious household was like, because that's what it was told,
Because stop
or
asking questions.
yes, yeah,
Did you
because I
wash your
said so.
hands? Why are you still here? Your shoes aren't on. We have to go.
Exactly, exactly. And so that, it just kind of messes up my mind a little bit where it's like, okay, I'm not getting the answers. And so, um, being in that religious household, I understand also just seeing from the culture of the church, and not just the church, but the neighborhoods and the culture of the South, where it was frowned upon getting mental help. It was frowned upon talking to a counselor. It was frowned upon talking to a psychiatrist. And I remember going back to my mother. I was like, "Hey, I needed help during it," and now she's acknowledged that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but what I realized is that these teachings was passed down from generation to generation. My mother didn't know why, they told us to do this way because she was taught that way. And then you keep going back, and it goes way back to slavery, which a lot of people don't like us to talk about that, where it says go back to slavery. But a lot of the root causes of why we are still facing trauma, mental health, even the way we're eating, goes all the way back to slavery. And so it was really frowned upon, and I see a lot of people that I grew up with that said, "Hey, man, I needed help," and they're getting the help now for whatever situation they have been through. It could be, and a lot of stuff they go through is usually hidden. But the end result is that they go to a system of eating, or a belief system of eating, which doesn't give your body and your mind, if it's anxiety or depression, you don't give yourself a fighting chance, because now you're getting all the foods that's causing this inflammation, or we causing, was it rapid depression, or increases, or anxiety increases. So it's like a downward spiral. And this is why I love about this diet, because it's resetting everything, but also it resets your mind mentally. I've heard a lot of people where they say when they switch their diet, it almost as if it helped with their depression, it helped with their anxiety. And some people say, well, it's not 100% improvement, but it's 60% improvement. I'll take 60 over nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's better than nothing. So it's not saying, oh, this is a cure for all, or this is the answer for all, but you're better off than what you were at, 5 years ago. Another thing, a book. I love books. So, one book that I recommend everyone to read is called Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome,
Oh,
by
okay.
Dr. Joy DeGruy, and she answers all the questions about
Hey,
why.
actually, I see a pandemic carnivore. You're here. Would you mind getting the link for that book on Amazon and putting it in the chat so
Oh yeah.
everybody can see
hmm
it? Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, that's
awesome.
her, African American lady. She has some great YouTube videos. She explains exactly why we are going through these it's like PTSD, but post traumatic slave syndrome, why we go through these situations. And what was interesting about her YouTube videos is that there was a lot of Caucasians in our audience that are really just wanting to learn because
Hmm.
they don't know. And so she doesn't hold anything back. She tells the truth how it is, what we went through, and how that generational, some people call it generational curse. I just call it generational, traditions or whatever, something generational. It just keeps passing, that trauma's passing down from generation to generation. Maybe the great 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 grandmother has a fear of going to around the corner to this block, and so that fear is passed on to the next generation. And we don't know why we have fear, but we have fear because it started back from that root cause of what happened years ago. So I love that book. I've actually read it twice because it's so good that it's one of those things where you just can't read it and just like, oh, I'm done. You have to absorb the information.
Hmm.
I recommend all races to read it because it really paints a picture of why we have a fear. We have a different fear than what everybody else does. Even when I see those blue and red lights, I'm like
Yeah.
this. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like 10 to
Yeah.
2 and keep my head straight. So we have to do different things a little bit
Yeah.
differently because of that fear.
And I feel like in the wellness community, they talk about, breathe deep and yoga and do this stretch. But it's like the reality is there's a police officer walking in my car. So whatever
Mhm.
breathing I do doesn't change the fact that I could die after this interaction. So, I feel like there isn't really a real acknowledgement of like this lack of, this lack of a feeling of safety. Um, and there's literally nothing we can do about it. Almost
Mm.
nothing we can do about it. So being given some of these techniques for breathing and whatever, I feel like that's not, the mental health person that you're going to be dealing with has to recognize that first before moving on to talking about anything else.
Mhm.
So I haven't read that book, so I'm really excited to read it and see, what the thoughts are. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and going back to the food aspect, some of the things I like to find solutions to a lot of things. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I like to find out what's been working for other people. Um, and what I've noticed is that when you do change your lifestyle to eating better, it does make a huge difference when it comes to this anxiety and depression. And I think a lot of, just my opinion, because I'm not a doctor or psychiatrist, so don't I hope nobody don't quote me on this, but I'm a firm believer that you want to give your mind and your body a fighting chance.
mhm,
And the best way to do that is eliminate the things that are causing, that's in your control. The things
mhm,
that are outside of our control, there's nothing we could do about. But the things that we can control, then there's a lot of things we could do about. And this is why, I like seeing the Black Carnivore movement because as more people jump aboard, they are also noticing healing in different areas they didn't even expect to be healed. Some
mhm,
people they go in there for weight loss, they go in there for reversing diabetes, but then once they in there prolonged, you say, "Wow, I haven't been crying, late at night, or I've been getting my sleep, or I'm not having insomnia anymore." And these things can play a factor, especially if you're not getting sleep. That can play in factor when it comes to maybe it is depression or maybe it's just lack of sleep. We don't know. Plus, you're not getting good vitamins like the eggs. They're really great. The
mhm.
cholesterol is needed for the brain and all these different factors that you're not going to get just from green plants.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go to the chat box because I see
Oh,
there's a
yes.
lot of conversation. So, hey, everybody, it's so good to see you. Um, the pandemic carnivore does not like catfish. She says they're nasty, look ugly, and taste worse. Um,
They have skin too. They don't have scales like the other fish. You have to. They have like skin, human skin almost.
oh my God, I really wish I didn't know that. This is brand new information and it grosses me out.
Shouldn't have said that. Uh-oh.
I can't believe I've gone 49 years never having heard that before, and that is so gross. Okay. Anyway, Ronnie, great to see you. Chase, great to see you. That's so awesome. Virginia, I'm so glad you're here. Chase says that getting robbed at gunpoint as a teen is probably why he feels so stressed. Yeah, I absolutely. Lady B is here. Good to see you. The Life Junkie is here. Emotional eating is huge, she says. Um, let's see. And somebody's getting the link to the book up. Loving Soul says 80 to 90% of my anxiety and depression has gone away since switching to this diet. I still have some of it, but most is gone. That's awesome. Carnivore Chef,
Wow.
hey, it's good to see you. So glad you're here. Virginia put the link up in the chat. So,
Oh, great.
um, yeah, so definitely get that. And can you actually hold the book up one more time? Because I think people missed
Oh,
it.
sure. Yeah, there we go.
Um,
So let's see that. Can you see it?
yeah,
Or
yeah, post traumatic slave syndrome.
hmm
Okay, so yeah. And the Life Junkie says, yes, that's the worst. The South is a different beast. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's no nook where racism hasn't gotten to. So we all get to enjoy our own special blend of it. And, it's very difficult.
right.
I feel like in my family there was a super pressure to achieve and to establish ourselves, which was good. I mean, it led to my mom and my uncle being the first ones to go to college in the family, and
hmm
to getting great jobs and building successful lives and being able to send me to this exclusive private school and go on to very good schools and that sort of thing. Um, but it's difficult. That requires you to always think of yourself as strong and never have a moment of weakness, which means that whenever you are feeling weak, you need something to help you feel strong. And
hmm
and so in my family, my mom and both my uncle were um, you know, morbidly obese, and I don't know about my uncle so much, but my mom just sugar, mainline sugar,
mm
and on a difficult day she might have a pint of ice cream, and then basically sort of pass out in a sugar
hmm
stupor for a while. But I grew up seeing that, so I knew what that was, and I used that tool myself, and I finally decided like that's not going to get me anywhere. And
hmm
when I first went keto, I actually no, maybe this was when I first went carnivore. I kind of cut out nicotine and alcohol and coffee and dairy, kind of almost almost all together. And it was just really stunning what a difference there was. I think that I had not been getting good sleep because of both the alcohol and the coffee for years on end. So for like the first 2 months, I just was walking around in a haze, like just so sleepy, and I would sleep so
Wow.
much. But I then one day I was like, I caught up. All the sleep debt got caught up, and suddenly it was like, oh, 6, 7 hours, like
Right.
that's enough. And I
Yeah.
don't need coffee in order to feel alert. And yeah, there was, and the mood too really changed, especially when I started increasing the fat and making sure that the fat was uh, beef fat, and not like oil or butter or mayo or
hmm
something like that, but really animal fat. And oh my God, it was like my brain came
Wow.
alive. And and so that's not to minimize the traumas that we go through and how devastating they can be on our psyche. But if you're starting out with a broken leg, running a marathon is going to be a lot harder. But if
Right.
you've got two good strong legs, it can be done. So I really do think that getting that part dialed in is right. But so many, I mean, not many of us go and get the mental health care we need. But when we do, like, there's a lot of talk, and I feel like talk doesn't undo like the sugar addiction or
Mm.
the lack of protein in your system or the inflammation that's coming from eating French fries and Bojangles or whatever. It's
Right.
like that part, you got to get that baseline before you can ever start like talking through the things that have been going on. And I think they say this in addiction therapy too. Like, there's no point in talking about all of the traumas of childhood and what might have driven you to drink. You have to stop drinking, and then all the problems, they will surface easily
Hmm.
right there before you don't
Right.
have to look for them. You don't have to like figure it out. Just stop, and then they'll appear. So.
And that's the hard part is really just stopping. A lot of people
Mhm.
they self-sabotage themselves before they even take any type of action. And that's why I think was it you that was talking about the book Mel Robbins with the 5 second rule? It was somebody I was
Oh,
talking
yeah, I
to.
think you were talking. Yeah, we talked about that together. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's an excellent tool to get yourself to just take a massive action where you're counting down backwards instead of counting forward because you start from one, you might end up at 20. So if you
Yeah.
count down five and then at one you launch and you just immediately take that action, it gives you a sense of power as well. And I want to go back to just my childhood when it comes to religious and the culture of what I've seen. I don't know how it is in New York. Is it like that too, where it's kind of like it's frowned upon with the black community when you're talking about counseling or psychiatrists or anything like that? Um,
I mean, generally, but in New York, people like it's, I guess, a little more cool to be neurotic, and so people are a little bit more willing. But my family is from the South, so
okay.
I mean, that's my grandparents came up from from South Carolina and Georgia, so and my
Hmm.
mom and uncle went down south every summer to stay with their grandmother in South Carolina. So there's still very much, an old traditional black Southern
Yeah.
culture in
Yeah.
my family.
Yeah, because that culture is just so strong that I think it has such a ripple effect. You can see the cause and effect now as older adults, where now they're teaching their kids the bad habits and the ways because they never received help. But it was like, Jesus is the answer for everything. I was like, what? I was like, well, hold on, we got some real issues, man. The choir director is doing this with I don't know,
Oh, oh God.
but mental health, it's like.
Yeah.
But I used to hear that all the time. In fact, I remember I'm probably like maybe 7 or 8 where I went to this one pastor was a guest pastor, and he actually said it was a sin to go get help from a counselor or a psychiatrist because you're not having enough faith in like your savior or whatever. The whole time I'm
Oh
not,
God.
I'm
How
serious. It's crazy.
traumatizing.
Childhood trauma. I've been through it. Yeah.
I mean, well, sometimes the most horrific crimes have been committed by, people who are in these positions of power who hold our souls, in their hands.
That's
And
yeah.
I mean, I can't think of a worse crime than that when you take somebody's trust like that and do that.
That's because they have so much influence,
Right.
because they have the power to change thousands of people's minds by whatever words and charismatic. They might
Mhm.
put some bells and whistle with their speech or whatever, but they have all this charisma and people follow these advice as if it's accurate and true, but
Mhm.
the end results are still the same. It's kind of like the same with like the faith healing, and then someone still got diabetes. It's like, oh, okay, maybe if you just stop eating the stuff that's causing diabetes. If they could say that, if they now, I don't know. I haven't been in like so long, so I don't know what's going on in there now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting with that. It's just a little bit of
Yeah.
memories that I know affected me as I was going through my teenage years. I was needing a lot of not too much, but I didn't go through so much trauma as other people. I think it was just more so of the discipline and the rules, and I never had answers to any of my questions. And then when I would ask these questions, I was get told, "Oh, you're self-righteous. You're self-righteous." I'm like, "What?" So
What? What does that
I'm
mean?
so serious. It's crazy. It's crazy. So they say, well, they say PK kids are the worst, and I was a PK kid, so preacher's kid, and probably so. That might be true. I got in trouble a lot.
Uh huh. Uh huh. Yeah. Well, the religious stuff is actually pretty interesting too. I mean, My grandfather never went to church. As so far as I knew, I never saw him do anything like that. But my grandmother wanted, her kids to have a better education, and so at that time in New York, you got a better education at parochial school. But at that time, at least one parent had to be Catholic, so my grandmother had to convert to Catholicism, and so that my mom and uncle could go, and so she did that, but then became devout, so
Mm.
always, going to church, doing all the things, and hanging up the cross and the little prayer cards and all of that kind of stuff. And now in retrospect, I think about what it means to be devout, because I think she did all the things, but I don't know
Mhm.
where her head or heart was. I mean, it was
Mm.
just sort of something that you do, and so I've kind of gone back to the expression of that, and then I
Mm.
think my grandfather might have been an African method from an AME church or something.
Oh,
I
okay.
think, but he never went so long as I was alive, and so I don't know. But I kind of feel like as I'm trying to reconnect with my family and with my ancestors, I'm kind of leaning back into these traditional expressions of religion just as a way of connecting. And it
Mhm.
feels familiar, like there was
Mhm.
gospel music that my grandfather used to always listen to. And we had a tradition of listening to Mahalia Jackson, or
Mhm.
her songs on Christmas morning, her Christmas songs. So anytime I hear Mahalia Jackson singing anything, like I'm immediately like, oh, it's Christmas, even though it's July and it's not even a Christmas song. But there's something so
Wow.
distinctive about her voice that it really, takes me to that. So yeah, so I don't know. There's like little parts of the of religion, like with a big R, that are sort of
Mhm.
family keepsakes, so to speak. I don't have a lot of physical things that were passed down, but certainly traditions and memories that I
Mhm.
now treasure. So I don't know, Mahalia Jackson, there will always be a place in my heart. But yeah,
So what we have in the comments?
actually tons. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I saw one go by. Let's see. Fragrance Minute says, "Do you think people tend to eat more sugar or just more food in general if they have trauma?" And then Pandemic Carnivore says, "Black women tend to display eating disorders differently as well, mostly in the
Mm.
form of binge eating rather than bulimia or anorexia." Um, and Loving Soul says therapy definitely helped, is helping, but changing diet and changing my day to day health. I'm taking all the help I can get though.
That's a
So
good question. Do you think that people just eat more sugar or food in general if they have past trauma? What are your thoughts about that?
yeah, I think. I think sugar is an easy reward or fix, and
Mhm.
a lot of people. The way I see it, sugar is can be addictive, but it's only addictive for people. Certain people's brains just light up more when they eat sugar. So
Mm.
if you are one of those people, then it becomes an easy little drug to take. It's kind of numbing, and I read even traditionally, I guess in the Jewish culture, when they're getting ready to circumcise the baby boy, they give him a little bit of sugar because it sort
Mm.
of numbs and calms him down, and it's very, I guess, a
Wow.
momentarily painful surgery or a procedure. So, but I was like, wow, so sugar is enough to kind of deal with the pain of that. That
Wow.
sounds, yeah. And so it's like, oh, okay, when you think about it, like sugar is, it's kind of great in the sense that you get a quick high, um, you get a little numb, and it's not so much that you can't operate or do, the things that you're going to do in life. And now that it's so ubiquitous in our society, like you can do it at any time, and really nobody says anything about it or even
Mhm.
encourages it in the form of like, cherries and, pineapple and so on. So yeah, I think that it's an easy tool, but but if your brain is not lit up by sugar, might not you might not find yourself going to sugar for that pleasure. So,
Mm,
but I think you also get pleasure from eating, and that's normal. And we need that because that's what drives us to eat and stay alive. So
mm-hmm.
there is pleasure in eating, um, but I think. For some people, maybe they're going to it looking for that pleasure. And as I'm finding, once I took out all the other stuff, like I was kind of going to food for that pleasure, but it doesn't provide that same pleasure that I get from sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like, oh, I'm full and not any more comfortable. So yeah, so for me there was definitely a period of like still figuring out like how much I'm eating and what's too much and all of that.
Wow, yeah, you're exactly right. I was reading some of the comments. Loving Soul, she said, or she or he, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, but the dopamine and adrenaline from the sugar mask pain, so we can get through intense situation. It mimics the fight versus flight response, and that is absolutely true. I can speak. Okay, she said she. Okay, I got it right. Woo. So I can speak for myself too. That's absolutely right that um, it does mask a lot of pain, and I'm thinking it's the same situation with a lot of people. It's like a band-aid, I guess. Never really gets to the root of the problem. Actually causes more of the problem. um, and when I ate sugar, during the time, I felt great. I felt better. It felt like I'm not worried about the trauma. I'm not worried about the pain or anything like that. Not saying I had severe trauma pain, but stress in general. And a lot of people, they stress eat, and stress eat could be a lot of the memories that are bringing up from the past. It could be stress from day-to-day work, stress and commute. I kind of define stress as an inability to have any control. So if I don't have any control of the situation, I'm stressed. Kind of like if I'm driving and if I lose control of that, I'm stressed because I have no control over it. If I get control back, I'm not stressed because I know where I'm heading. I have a little bit better control. So that builds up from a lot of that. I guess we could say anxiety. I haven't really experienced too much. I think I experienced anxiety maybe one time. Oh no, let me take that back. When I get pulled over, that's the time I feel anxiety. That's the best way I get. Okay. Um, there was a moments of time when I had been through stages of depression as well, and it was nothing to really fix the situation during that time. It was like maybe 10, 15 years ago, except for food. That was it. A hot dog or Chick-fil-A it's been one of the stress relievers in my life. And some people would say, go for a walk, go work out in the gym, and that would help with these different situations. But I can honestly say that has never worked out for me. Um, what has really worked out though was, of course, is diet because I'm eliminating all these foods. And we might even jump on the power of fasting, which I did learn from. That's something I could, a positive note I could take away from the religious aspects. But there's a lot of science goes with fasting, where it helps with the addictions of sugar. Because I look at this sugar, it releases a lot of dopamine in the brain the same way as sex does. It releases. So when you sustain from these foods, it gives you power to sustain from a lot of other things, and you have more control. I probably have to pull up. I mean, that might be another topic that we could talk on about fasting on that, but it goes really deep. Which the intermittent fasting really helped me to overcome the sugar addictions. And also, there was a period of time where I would just fast for like maybe a max 72 hours. I couldn't go past 72 hours. After that, I was like, I think I'm good. So I'm not, I want some meat now. I want some
Yeah.
food. So I was like, I'm not prolonging this any longer for that.
Hmm.
But it made a huge difference for it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I think I see Life Junkies asks again, do you think that healing your addiction with food, you heal other trauma? So, one, I don't think we heal addiction. We just stop consuming the thing, that we're addicted to, and then other things heal. And you can take different approaches to your life, but I don't think that I'll ever be normal around sugar, or my brain will always remember this pattern, so as soon as I have it, it's going to light up again.
Mm.
But I can choose not to ever have it again, and I can approach life in a different way. And then in terms of trauma, I don't, I mean, I'm not a healthcare professional, but I don't know that we ever heal from trauma. We just learn better skill sets to deal with it, and and like, especially for the things that happen to us when we're very young, like, we're like processing them through a very young brain that doesn't even really understand like how profound that experience was. So, like I was saying, I went to this very exclusive white private school for girls starting in kindergarten. And, my classmates like owned an island, or, homes like, fancy like castles and stuff in other
Mm-hmm.
countries. I mean, there was that kind of wealth, not, I mean, even learned the term new money versus old money. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when I had no money. Like, I don't even know why this is useful information for me. But, starting in a school like that when I am, 5 and have like no ability to, really protect myself, and having teachers who weren't, interested in having black faces there, that was really, really profound. And I just don't know, I don't know what heals that so much as,
Mm-hmm.
me being an adult, recognizing that I wasn't cared for in the way that I needed to be, and it wasn't my fault. It wasn't, necessarily my family's fault, or anybody's fault, but that's what happened, and now I can take care of myself, and
Mm.
and I think part of it is just learning to sit with uncomfortable feelings of being, afraid, or feeling unsafe, or feeling, whatever it is that you're feeling. You just have to learn to not try to get away from that feeling.
That's good.
So,
Uh, I agree with you. I think addiction, you can't heal addiction. I look at it as a untamed beast, and I want to control that beast as best as
yes,
I can. I want to be like that
yes,
cowboy that
yeah,
sees that bull, and I just get that rope and let me get that beast. I look at addiction that way. It probably would never go away. I could be going, no sugar cravings for about a year. Then all of a sudden, something where pandemic carnivore, she mentions about the memories. I smell something, increase those memories. Like, yeah, what's that? I remember having that cake and ice cream and how it made me feel. But what I have to do is remind myself that's that beast coming out. I have to go and control it. I have to tame it and put it back in its place.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
how I kind of look at that. I kind of use it like a little analogy for it.
I know, I totally agree. And I think it wasn't until I realized, I let sugar and my desire for sugar be this big, and I let myself think that it was running the show. But in reality, it's a little gnat flying
Hmm.
around me, and I'm the one who makes a decision. So it's annoying, but it's not calling the shots. I do. And,
Right.
once I right size the little beast so that it's, little tiny like this flying around.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, you're not that big a deal. Let me handle that.
Right, yeah. When you have control and power over it, you realize that it was a big issue at that time, but now it's like it's a little bitty issue now. Now I guess you're growing in strength maybe. You strengthen yourself. Pandemic Carnivore, she was mentioning something about the superpowers too. I think I love this analogy because she was like, what are your superpowers? And it kind of caught me off guard a little bit because I was like, oh, this is a good question, but I can't think of anything. And so now that I'm thinking about what kind of, superpowers that we have after changing his lifestyle, is that now I can add another one to the list. I have more control over these beasts, that try to rise up in me and stuff. Also, with the healing with trauma, I agree too that it's not really healing, but maybe it will help you give your mind and your body a fighting chance to cope with it, to learn strategies to deal with it, because that memories will never go away. It's some For some reason negative things have a huger impact, have a bigger weight than the positive things. I mean, you see these in like couples sometimes. The couple, the guy could be doing good all the time. He messed up one time, and like, oh, you forgot about all the hundred little things that I've done good, and I forgot to open the door for you, and now you're going to hold this against me. So for some reason, that negative thing weighs heavy. These negative things about it, and I think that's the same thing with the trauma, different traumas. But we have to learn strategies. For one thing, I think one of the best strategies is this group, this group of people that are like us, that we could talk about our problems, because you never know, just by talking to someone and someone say, oh, I've been there, this is how I overcame that trauma, this is what helped me. And it might be another person that says, hey, I had a different approach, but this is what I use. And you find out, kind of like a teacher in school, you find out which teacher works best, that you could resonate with. So yeah, we if you talk to 100 people, 100 people will tell you what type of trauma they've been through, whether it's big or small. They all been through something. But now we have to learn to really come as a group and discuss these issues and discuss these situations, because me growing up, I didn't have anybody to talk to about any of the issues I had. I'll
Yeah.
probably talk to you and probably some other people more on social media than people I've actually seen face to face. But it is healing. Even when the perfect example, when I went to my dad's birthday, I was like, hey, you know what, I'm going to this, he having cake and ice cream, and I was on the group call with the
Yeah.
Black Carnivore group and all that. It really helped me just to overcome like that sensation of the smells and all that, because when I get there and I see everybody's having a good time, they're laughing, and I was like, oh, this is hard, but I didn't want to get off the call. And then until they start looking at me crazy, it's like, you're being rude. We need you to come on to the party now. So I was like, all right, guys, I gotta go. So I had to tell her I gotta go. I'm here. It is my dad's birthday party. So,
Yeah.
but that does help a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why we're here trying to do these live streams and create this, community for people, because it is really hard to go against, the norm. And even though, I mean, we're doing carnivore, which is already like way off the beaten path, but not having sugar, like I think that is what is most stunning to people, and they just cannot grasp. And when I say, I don't eat sugar, most people are like, yeah, I swore that off. I don't have any sugar either. Um, but what kind of cereal do you want tomorrow? Can you bring me some bread?
Hmm.
And I can't wait to have some fruit. And, I've got a big bag of cherries today. And it's like, yeah, we got
Mm.
to redefine sugar. I think that the sugar industry has successfully changed what we think sugar is.
And there's also a thing that I've realized from learning about cholesterol, is that it's always been like a negative impact, or what they talk about, the myth of cholesterol, how we have to avoid it. But there were studies that show that people with lower LDL levels had higher risk of dementia, and they were going through more depression and everything like that. So
Mm,
it's pretty interesting once we find a sweet spot with our diet, that we see a lot of these symptoms that we're going through pretty much vanish. And again, I like to tell people, it might not be 100% gone. You might be 80, there might be a 60% improvement, but I'll take that. I'll take the 60%. I even take 20% over nothing. So it just lets you know that there's more room for improvement. And sometimes it's just going to take a while for your body to just adapt to this way of eating, because the body self heals. We just have to allow it to heal, and that includes our organs, our brain, the inflammation that's in our blood vessels that's causing mental fog and brain fog. These things, it's gonna you got to think about it. We've been eating bad maybe 20, 30 years, all our life from childhood. So it's going to take a while for us
yeah.
to get rid of all of those things that are causing the issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, like let's see. There's a few comments in here that I thought was interesting. I see Erica says we need a web board or a Facebook group of our own. So yes, absolutely we need a place to communicate, and that is why I am working on building a website and being able to, create a community for us. I know that Facebook is, I mean, it's a place that a lot of people go to and have like private pages so we can have these kind of ongoing conversations. But, there are issues and problems with Facebook too. So I am I'm kind of hesitant about building a home there because, it's, I mean, they get rid of groups all the time. There's all sorts of things going on with Facebook. So, yes, Erica, we are working on it diligently, very, very soon. But I am so glad that you want to continue to be part of the community. And in fact, I'm going to put a link in the description when this video is over, so you can sign up on the email list. So I will be able to let you know as soon as we are ready to, to come out that way. And then let's see. I think so. Someone asked if you were when you were vegan, did you break fast with sugar? That must have felt awful.
What
You
was that
must,
when I was vegan?
yeah. Did you? Well, were you fasting when you were vegan, or
I
no?
couldn't fast when I was
Okay.
vegan because I was
Yeah.
always hungry.
Yeah.
It was very difficult doing that. We could talk about the different hormones that's in the brain that cause you, ghrelin and leptin and all that. It just caused you to be hungry all the time, and so I was a little weaker with that. I had a lot of brain fog, and I felt like I needed to eat more when I was on a vegan diet. I would have to say that was trauma itself. That was
Yeah.
we talking about trauma. If anybody has heard by now, I probably bring up the vegan history almost every single call that I do because it's traumatizing and it really I think it did a lot of mental issues with me when it comes to I'm not talking about like I'm going in a straitjacket or anything, but what I'm talking about is like it was a lot of brain fog, I think. Lack of concentration. I guess I could probably put that in the mental issues category. I couldn't concentrate. Every time I would get off from work, I had about an hour and a half commute home because it's Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. So it was a forever drive.
Yeah.
So I would get home, I would take a nap because I was so tired. I would drink Red Bulls after Red Bulls, trying to stay awake. And here's the thing I'm doing, if you can see all these books, I got all these vegan, like this one, which is really horrible, that really messed up my health, How Not to Die, Michael Greger. I just want to toss that. So that's that book. I keep it there as a trophy and a memory, just to say I would never do this again. It what gave me high blood pressure. My high blood pressure was 160 over 110. That was like on the borderline of death, and a lot of the mental
Wow.
issues that I had. Yeah, it was
So wait, on
crazy.
vegan, your blood pressure went way up.
It went way
Wow.
up. I gained another 20 pounds on the vegan diet. I think the worst things that I had experienced with gut issues. Of course, everybody experienced that when they're on the long vegan diet, but the the mental fog. It was something I never experienced before. When you you just can't concentrate. I mean, it was like hard. Like sometimes I'll be driving on the road and I just don't know how I got from one place to the other. I didn't have any energy. So I would come home and I would sleep for hours and I would wake up still tired. And here's the thing, I'm taking my B12, I'm following the gurus of the vegan diet, and the whole time I'm just ignoring my body. My body is saying, "Oh, you need some chicken, you need some red beef, you need some liver, you need something. Quit eating these plants." And I just ignored it. So trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah, we
Um,
said toss it out. Yeah, just
yeah. So
I might put it
I
on the grill, barbecue it or something.
I know, put grill marks on it and post it, but that should be a post on Instagram.
Yeah,
The best use
like,
of a vegan cookbook. Um,
yeah.
yeah. So well, two things that I wanted to just come back to, because not everybody here, I think, has been part of all the conversations, and so we are talking about and referencing a couple of things that you might not be familiar with. So one is the superpower conversation, and in fact, I wasn't there when this conversation happened either, so I don't know all the details, but it was I think a really interesting concept that a pandemic carnivore came up with. But if you can explain what it was, Rashad, I think people might like to know.
What was that?
What is the superpower? Like, can you just give a little background to it? Because you made a
Sure.
reference to it, but not everybody
Oh,
was here when.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just reading the comments, having a laugh. Pandemic Carnivore was asking, end of our conversation, being on the carnivore diet, what superpowers uh, have you discovered? Something new. And it was something fun. It was really fun, that I think is pretty awesome to talk about. And I was thinking, and so I remember, the example I gave was going to the gym. I'm up here trying to do squats. I haven't done squats in like almost a year. So I'm thinking, okay, I can handle this. I'm gonna put these 45s on it. I went down 3 times, like, oh no, I felt something in the back of my leg, and I knew it was a pulled muscle because I had it before when I used to do like track and field. And so I was like, oh, this is gonna take a while to recover and everything. So what I noticed that the healing from that diet was immediately. The next day, I didn't have any pain at all, and that's pretty much. It seems like a miracle. It seems unbelievable. And I know a couple people that was on the call. I believe they were saying that the healing aspects of the diet, because you're replacing what's damaged with what protein, not plants. So and I think another one was talking about the memory, and there's one where so I think that's what we really talked about. What are we seeing that just kind of relatable? Like I kind of call us the black Avengers, the black carnivore Avengers. Like, hey, your superpower is like the brain, and one to have super memory. Oh, and thinking about super memory, it was one time I was at this party and I was just on a keto diet. It wasn't even a carnivore,
Mhm.
and I remember everyone was introducing their names, and I was like, I remember everybody's name. It was like 20 people. It was a house party. And I remember everybody's name at the party. And I was like, this is so now that I'm thinking back of all these different powers that I had, it's really amazing. So I think some of the superpowers that we will ultimately receive is super memory powers. So you'll get that super memory powers and super healing. If anybody, I'm a big fan of X-Men, Wolverine. You got that healing powers. You know, I'm waiting for the strength part because I want to get back to the squats and conquer that beast as well.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. What an amazing superpower. And I have always wanted to be an Avenger. So now we get to be Black Carnivore Avengers. That is awesome.
Oh, we have
And
someone from China.
yeah, Even Flow Fit on Instagram is here, and he's going to be here on Thursday, and we're going to do an interview. So real excited for that. And Pandemic Carnivore is going to be here as well. So it'll be lots of fun, lots of laughs, good time. So yeah, that's awesome. And I saw there was another. Um, oh, Sharif Taylor was saying he had no idea what to do with his old vegan books, and he felt bad burning them. I was gonna say I once saw like I don't know, was it like Bob Vila or one of those shows where they took a couple of stacks of books and made a lamp out of them, a floor lamp out of them. So I think that is a great use for them.
Wow.
Some kind of creative, as long as you can drill a hole, glue them together, drill a hole through, run a wire in it, and then you have the lamp, stick that sticks into the hole. You're good.
I was thinking of making of a chew toy from a dog, so that might be useful.
Yeah, there you go. Um, so yeah, but there's a lot of questions. Well, there's a lot of interest in the vegan. So you were definitely going to do a brown sugar roundtable on veganism in the Black community. So definitely look out for that. I think it's really important. And let's see, what was I? So I'm not sure what I would say my superpower is. I think one of them is unlimited energy. And
Mm,
I was always a person that, like, just would keep going from morning to night. Just, had a lot of energy to be able to do that. But once I got heavy into the sugar and I gained weight, like, I just felt awful. And it was all I could do to, like, get up and go to work and then get home again. And,
mm,
and I just I didn't have the energy to go places, do things, or be social or anything. And so I just kind of thought that's what it feels like to be 44 or 45, that's it. But once I went keto, I mean, I hadn't even gotten to carnivore yet. Just going keto, 6 weeks later, I all of a sudden had, like, all this energy, and it was like, oh my god, I cannot believe I was living like that and thinking that's normal. But there's so many people in our community who think that's normal, and, like, they just don't believe me when I say you don't have to feel that way. And
mhm.
they just think I'm like, just, oh, there goes A Day, oh. I'm like,
Mm.
what are you doing? And in fact, today I was kind of short with one of my cousins. She's actually sick, and she's been tested twice, but um, no, once I think, and the test came out negative, and she got tested again, and she's still not
Mm,
sure, but doesn't have the results yet from that. But I was kind of like, your blood pressure is high, you're overweight, you likely have, pre-diabetes, even
mhm.
though, I don't really know what your numbers are, know how you're eating. Um, these are all the risk factors that make us get COVID more and worse. So,
Mm.
like, this, you have to take this seriously. And, I was like, I hate to be hard on you, but, like, if you are sick, you have got to get the inflammation in your body down. And she has asthma, and they're giving her all these different medications, but she has trouble breathing, and she's tired all the time. And it's like,
Hmm.
I this sounds familiar. So I'm like, I gave her, that page 4 that everyone starts off with, like, from the old Atkins days. And it's a great, I find it useful as a starting point because it's just a one sheet piece of paper. It tells you everything to eat. You don't have to count anything. If it's not on the paper, you don't eat it. If it's on the paper, you can eat it. That's it.
Mm.
And so I'm, like, trying to go through this with her, and she's just like, oh well, okay, all right, I'm gonna do this. But what can I get from Kentucky Fried Chicken? And, like, oh,
We
nothing,
could not
nothing.
KFC.
But
The
I was like, look, I don't care what you do the rest of your life, but for 30 days, you got to do this because, look, you have little ones who are relying on you, and you cannot get sick, you cannot die, and you can't go to the hospital. So
Mhm.
you're just gonna have to bite the bullet and suffer, for 30 days and get through this, and hopefully she'll be,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the downside of, let's say we're talking about the superhero stuff, the downside about being a black carnivore Avenger superhero is that you try to save everyone. You try to
yeah.
save your immediate family, and it never really goes out as planned. It's like if you can only see what I'm seeing, hey, you can feel a lot better. It's like you want to give the solutions, especially when we're talking about mental health. And one, I think, doctor or some doctor, he said he made this statement that stuck in my mind forever. He says, "I never seen a happy person depressed."
Mhm.
And so what he was saying was more of an analogy that once you change your diet, you see these people with this super energy. They
Mhm.
have these energy. When you have energy, you feel better, you feel a little bit happier. And it's pretty much not, he's not saying that you're never going to be depressed, but he's saying that you are eliminating or you're tackling that issue of the depression and all that. um, that's what the diet does for you. I mean, think about it. If you have energy, you really don't have time to be just in the corner, feeling some certain type of way. You just give yourself a fighting chance to
Mhm.
be better. But that's the downside. I especially with a lot of the family now. I have some that are doing this alkaline vegan. They're posting these pictures, and I'm like, oh gosh, no. And so I'm just waiting for them to, I'm hoping, of course, I'm hoping that they'll be successful and then they reverse this. But the end game I already seen. It's like I could prophesy to you and tell you what you how this outcome is going to be. It's not going to be great. Let's
Yeah.
try go back to what our ancestors ate, which is meat. We didn't have all this kale and carrots and everything like that. But I mean, going back to this, I love this superpower analogy. I don't know why I'm stuck on it now. Now it's all pandemic carnivore's fault
Well,
for
I
having me
see
talk.
yeah, I see we have a Hulk and a Neo in the chat room, so I love
Yeah,
it. Carnivore Neo, Carnivore Hulk,
I
and
like
someone
yeah.
Erica is super calm.
Super calm. Oh, I
Yeah,
like that too. Yeah.
yeah,
Hey, that's another thing where I've seen too, because you're not jumping off being stressed and like, oh no, no, this happened, this happened. You have more control and stuff. So it seems unrealistic. It seems like that we're just saying it's a miracle diet, but it kind of is. It kind of is a miracle diet, and it's not anything new. It's like this is what our ancestors been doing all along. They didn't have stress, and I mean their stress was a little bit different when there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing after them, but it wasn't it
I'm
wasn't
sure
stress.
that's quite stressful. And that's a really good time for a Snickers bar. That extra boost in
Exactly.
energy might be
Want to get
helpful.
away? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's the airlines one. Want to get away? Have a it's one of them. It's a oh yeah, your family or your biggest critics
Hmm.
plus vegans. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's trying to save everyone. That I could say is it could be stressful, and I have to be like J. Cole. Don't save them. They want to be saved. I so I don't go and seeking the ones that I could kind of know. I could mention these things like, hey, you just came from the doctor with bad news. I can help you, and it's like, yeah, but my doctor says I gotta take these pills, and I'm about to go
Yeah.
grab a Burger King, a Big Mac or something, and I'm just like, okay, that's
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I know, but in these times, it's like, just so important. Okay, I see Danita said in the chat box, thank you so much. There's 26 people in the chat and only 13 likes. Hit the like button to influence the YouTube algorithm.
Right?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for doing that. And I should be coming back periodically to say hit the subscribe button as well so you can get notified. Make sure you click the little bell, so the bell icon, so you'll get notified every time I go live. And hit the like button, and I'm gonna put the link to sign in or sign up for our email list. But I'm loving the conversation. Thanks so much for guys for being here. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we're getting a lot of this is a great conversation. That's awesome.
We just kind of
Hey,
winged it too. That's interesting.
what'd you say?
We just kind of winged it too. So I like how this is going. This is really
Yeah.
good.
Well, we're full of, I mean, we're thoughtful people that read a lot, study a lot, and think about our lives. So I think we just have a lot of good stuff to share.
Mm.
Yeah. Hey,
Oh,
Invincible VS.
Chase
Oh,
said vegan cookbooks have a purpose. Use them as fuel to cook steaks and lamb chops.
there you
I
go.
I was thinking about when the toilet paper crisis was going on during the pandemic. I was about to pull out some of these pages and I take this vegan.
I know. I forgot. I talked to you about that. So I was in New York, and I didn't get the memo to go buy out all the stores of toilet paper. So I had like two rolls that were here, and that was it. So and I mean, the only saving grace was, or I don't know if you call this a saving grace. Well, my mom had just passed away at that point, and before she had passed, she had bought, I don't know, a whole bunch of random stuff. But one of them was like all of these wipes, like toilet paper wipes, like Cottonelle and stuff. So I had like tons of those, and so that was what I had to have the whole time. And we're, I feel like, only in the last month have we really started getting like toilet paper back in the stores here in New York.
Mm,
It's ridiculous. Anyway, that was probably more than you wanted or needed to know.
I'm sure they
Um,
want to know. But what's great about the diet is that you're not running to the bathroom 6 times a day like
yeah,
on a plant-based diet where
yeah,
it's just never ending
yeah,
waterfall. Now
yeah.
that's quite. TMI.
Yeah. Well, actually, I feel like, I see a lot of people, like on my Instagram feed and, and in other places saying, oh, man, I just started this plant-based diet and I feel great, but, I'm feeling a little bloated. How do you handle that? And it's like, oh, it's only going to get worse from here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that bloating is unreal.
Mhm.
I actually had this one picture where it shows, it might be on my Instagram, where it shows my stomach was sticking out like, I mean, so
Yeah.
bloated. And it was ridiculous. Like the shirts that I was wearing, they were button shirts. That's why I have these from
Hmm.
the past trauma because my button shirts couldn't fit. I'm dead serious. So I had to start buying these cotton shirts when I was a vegan because my belly would stick out from all this bloating. And I'm like, I got these, regular legs with the stomach that's sticking out. I was like, this is unreal. The bloating is not. I'm telling you, I'm traumatized. I'm so traumatized by it. Good thing I am learning to cope with that trauma.
Yeah, you're a better man than me because I just could not really stick with it. I would do like the vegan for a couple days and then like I'd have to have a burger. So I never really got very far. But on keto, like I think in the early days, I there was like a push to have vegetables because it was a way to kind of normalize keto. So when
Hmm.
you were saying to somebody that you didn't eat like bread and pasta, when you said you ate a lot of vegetables, they'd be like, "Oh, okay. So, you're trying to be healthy." So I ate a
Right.
lot of vegetables in the early days, and I remember there's a place in New York that was sort of I don't know. I mean, it was just one of those places that's all these like fancy salads. But one of the salads they had, one of the only ones that I actually could bear, sort of, was raw kale with like a cashew butter dressing.
Mm,
And I mean, there's nothing about that that's digestible. Not the cashews, not the
right.
raw kale. And I think sometimes they would mix in raw collard greens. I know, like, my grandmother would be like, "What is wrong with you? Why are you eating collard greens raw?" Um,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. So, I finally got to the point where it was like, do I, I'd go out and I'd go to that place and I'd be like, should I order the sandwich? And then I think, do I have 2 hours to be in the bathroom after lunch? No, I've got a meeting at 3. I can't do that. So, and I was like, I can't believe like that's part of the calculation as to whether to have this salad. Like, why isn't that a sign? Don't eat
Hmm.
this. Like your body does not like this. Don't do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that raw kale, I think I used to eat raw kale a lot and I think it gave me leaky gut. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt really horrible. And the thing about it, when they talk about this fiber, it help you, I was constipated really bad from kale. All the fiber that's in kale, it didn't do anything but just backed up like a traffic jam. Now that's TMI. I feel so open and free to talk about everything now. I don't know. Maybe it's the beef with just having me to open up. I feel like I'm in counseling now. I could tell you about all my problems I've been through on this diet. But yeah, it was when I tried that, I used to make kale smoothies, and my problem was, why is a salad $15? What the hell? I was like, $15 for a salad, and I'm
Right.
still hungry afterwards. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I saw some good comments in here. Good question. A lot of people loving this community. Thank you. I am loving you guys for being here, and it really is starting to feel like, a strong friendship, a clan.
It's a
We're
family. That's
yeah,
what,
a family.
yeah,
What am I
it feels
saying?
like that.
Black
It feels
carnivore
like that.
family. There's what we're calling each other. We're the Black Carnivore family. All
And
right.
that's something with our culture. Like we are so good where we collaborate, we come together, and we feel like this is family. You're not gonna find that at Meet Our Ex. What Erica says, I just want to say I'm a refugee from Meet Our Ex. First time I felt comfortable in carnivore space. Come on, we'll rescue you.
Welcome. Yeah, we take the refugees. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can't open up like our stories to like Meet our X or other platforms. I think it's great to have that there, but we needed this for us. I mean,
Yeah.
we were pretty much suffering from a systematic point of view. Our culture was suffering, the past trauma, the mental health, and I think this is a year that in 2020 that things are coming together. I always try to find some good and bad, and even though this COV, I'm not even gonna say the name, the
Yeah.
Cove,
Yeah.
was going around. There's a lot of good that came out of it, from this and meeting a new family, So
Hmm.
I love this, and I think this is what is attracting a lot of people because we want to feel welcome. We want to feel like I could just express my feelings. I probably expressed a lot, so, but it felt good. That's the thing about it. It felt really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when I finally like started my Instagram channel and was able to talk to a person in real life, it was so freeing to be able to talk to someone else who gets it, who gets how awful I felt before and who gets how great I feel now and what the challenges are. So building community, I think, is so important. And I don't know. I guess I've kind of spent my life doing this. I mean, I
Hmm.
worked as an organizer at a labor union. I've run for office, public office twice myself. I have run many political campaigns. So my job and my career has been about organizing and moving people to, take specific action. And right now, it's, even though the time that we're in is super scary and really challenging, it I also find it very exciting because we're in a moment when things are so topsy turvy that almost any ideas are can possibly take traction. So I think this is a moment where we must speak out, we must organize, because we have the ability to change Black health for the future. I think that we have the ability to create a space where a meat-based diet is normal and safe and healthy, and we can share that message. We don't just have to have the plant-based approach that the only thing that people think of or know as healthy. So
Hmm.
we're if we weren't here, I don't know what would happen to our people over the next, couple of decades. But if we continue to assert ourselves and continue to exist, we will provide that safe haven for people who are like, I just can't do this vegan thing, or my stomach is just too bloated. I don't know what else to do. So, yes, I think what we're doing here is critically important, and all of you being here is really just amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say that a lot of things, it seems taboo to just eat meat. I mean, it doesn't even seem normal, and because when you've been indoctrinated, like fat is bad, got to eat your, growing up with pie and eat your can of spinach. uh, all these different things just plays a huge role in, and now we're at a point where we're saying, hey, everything you were taught all your life is false. And when you go against that, there's the dissonance that goes in people's mind, where it's like, but I was taught this way, it has to be true. And they go through this period. It could be emotional, it could be anger, maybe they'll listen, but what I'm learning now is planting a seed is probably the most important thing to do with a lot of people. Is, hey, I'm gonna plant this seed and I'm gonna move on. and
Yeah.
but then because it happened to me when it comes to when I think I was on MyFitnessPal and I was doing like the vegan and all this, and the first time I heard keto, and I was like, what's keto? It don't even sound right. When I looked at eating fat, I'm like, oh no, this is no way. These people are gonna die. Without even me doing any research, I already had a made up mind about the diet. And then I'm seeing, why is everybody losing weight by eating fat?
Yeah.
So the only thing that really changed me from adapting this lifestyle was seeing a good friend of mine. We did some work together in photography, and he's a black guy, a brother that was eating like a whole bunch of fat, barbecue with, it was
Yeah.
keto. And I was like, man, you went from 260 pounds to 180 pounds just eating meat. And he wasn't even really doing a true keto diet. It
Yeah.
was more like carnivore because he didn't do the macros where it's like 25% protein. He just like, hey, I'm gonna just eat meat and cut down all all the vegetables and everything like that. And he lost a lot of weight. And that really what drew me to it because I see another black guy that's doing it. I was like, okay,
Hmm.
if it's working for his body and he has no diabetes, no high cholesterol, everything is normal. I'm talking to him. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a chance now. And again, I always like to say social influence. We
Hmm.
look at other people's stories, look at other people's lifestyle, and people that are like us. If it's working for them, more likely they're gonna try it out because they're like us.
Hmm. Yeah. And I have to say, I had someone reach out to me today. He's black and in France, I think, living in Paris, and he. I was trying to use my old high school French to say hello, but he did say that he feels alone, and that his friends are like, oh, that's not something people with melanin do. People with melanin don't eat meat and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And I was like, yeah, where is this coming from? That, black people, like, if we're, evolved or woke or whatever, we shouldn't be eating meat. Like, that's not, yeah,
Stay woke. I hear
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Everyone's woke, but haven't read a book about any of it's like I'm woke
yeah,
because of memes. But
yeah,
I get it. People are trying to find their way with it. Oh, there's some really great comments in there.
yeah. Yeah,
As
thanks
far
for
as
everyone for your comments on my skin. I really appreciate that. I do my best. I've always had dry skin, and that was just always a problem, like always using a ton of moisturizer and stuff. I definitely noticed once I upped the fat, like it's definitely made a difference on my skin. Um, so,
Yeah, I used to suffer from hives really bad,
mhm.
and it would be so bad. I would scratch so much. I remember this one story when I was probably about 12 years old. I remember I woke my mother up and I said, "Hey, I'm breaking out in all these hives, these rashes because of allergies and stuff." Here in
Mhm.
Texas, allergies is really bad. It's pretty much, well, I'll go to the story. So she says I'm too tired. I go ride my bicycle to the store called Albertsons, and I actually go steal some Benadryl for my hives. I told you, I got in trouble when I told her. I told her, I said, "Hey, I got some Benadryl. I'm breaking out really bad," and she was highly upset. It's a sin, and all that. I was like, "I know, but this is worse than hell right now. This is hives." So I have to
Oh,
say that
wow.
what ever since so when I was on the vegan and even before that on a sad diet, I would go twice a year for allergy shots. And I thought my allergies
Wow,
was
shots.
so allergy shot, yeah, so bad. It was so severe. Texas has a lot of ragweed and a lot of pollen that comes in like multiple times a year. And it comes from up north, I think. Gets really bad, but my allergies get so bad. Ever
Hmm.
since I started the keto and the carnivore, I haven't had to go to the doctor at all for any of the allergy shots. It's about
Wow.
a 90% improvement. I would still sneeze every once in a while when it gets really bad, but I haven't had any of the Zyrtec pills, none of the Allegra. I used to keep a box of Allegra, one at home and one at work,
Yeah,
just in case I have an outbreak. And I would
yeah.
have to have some nasal spray and everything like that. Like allergy
Hmm.
season is really, I feel a little bit, but again, it's one of those things where I'm seeing so much improvement. I'll take 80%, 90% improvement with my allergies where I don't have to go to the doctor. I mean,
Hmm.
I have a lot of stories where I can see where the healing comes from. Allergies was one of the ones that I didn't even consider of trying to heal. I just thought it was just a normal way of life. Like I will always deal with this. Also, when I was in high school, I remember it was a ninth grade, and my football coach, he was like, uh, he pulled me out of the class and because he was teaching another class like English, I can't remember math or English,
Uh-huh.
and he was like, "Rashad, I need to ask you something." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Are you high?" I said, "No, sir." Well, no,
Yeah.
I'm not at all. He's like, "Well, your eyes are bloodshot red." I pulled out the prescription. Visine or whatever the doctor gave me. I said, no, I have severe allergies. My eyes get like this because of the ragweed and pollen. I would have to carry Visine everywhere I go. And then all the kids or the people in high school is like, yeah, I know you smoking that good stuff. I was like, no, I'm not, man. I got allergies. I got allergies. So
Yeah.
I try to explain that to them, and everybody they would see me and they were like, give the dab and all that. And it was like, yeah, you got the where you get the good stuff at. I said, man, I guess Visine. I'm not on any green herbs or
Yeah.
anything like that. But it was so crazy how
Yeah.
it's just a total makeover, like a total improvement just from switching this diet.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what the science is behind it. I just know it worked when it comes to
Yeah.
my allergies.
I had like the exact same experience. So I've had like allergies since surely in high school, but in college is when it got really bad. Like I would wake up with these horrible headaches, and turns out it was like my sinuses. And back then, I think it was in the early 90s, Sudafed wasn't yet allowed to be purchased over
Mm.
the counter. So the first time I got it, I went to the doctor and they prescribed it. I was like, oh my God, 6 months of like agony all over with this pill. So I saw Sudafed as like my savior. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I had Sudafed everywhere. There was like I'd have a pack in my purse. I'd have a pack at work. I'd have a pack at home. There'd be a pack in the bedroom. I always had Sudafed. And then on top of that, I always had Benadryl. I always had Claritin. I mean, I would kind of run through the Zyrtec, the Claritin, and try all of the different
Mm-hmm.
ones. And then when I tried Flonase, it was like, oh, finally
Heaven.
something that worked, right? And it was like it made such a difference. Little did I know it's a steroid. I mean, I
Right.
think I was like a year into keto before I understood that it was a steroid. And I was like, "Oh my god, like taking steroids really interferes with your ability to get fat adapted and all of this stuff." And it was like, this is like a really big deal. And I've been taking steroids now continuously for like 4 years. And
Mm.
that's huge. So, I took like everything, it seemed like. And then so when I went on keto, I was able to mostly just do the Flonase and Benadryl. I did those all the time, like Benadryl around the clock. So when people say, they're like, Benadryl makes them sleepy, I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
like you haven't lived if you haven't gone 2 months straight taking it around the clock. But but it really wasn't until I went carnivore and took out the dairy that I really, really recovered. So
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I don't know if it's like it's a combination of me specifically being allergic to corn and soy, in addition to just the general benefits that you get from carnivore. But I definitely, definitely improved significantly by removing all the plant matter and removing the dairy. So I've gone for periods of time where I didn't eat any dairy, but I was still eating, sugar and carbs, and I still had the same problems. But that when I took out all the plant material, I got a lot better. I didn't need the Flonase. I wasn't sneezing. I didn't have the itchy eyes when I was around the dog. Like I didn't, like it used to be if the dog licked me, I'd have the shape of the tongue right on my face,
Mm.
like in a raised welt. But that didn't happen anymore. But once I took out the dairy, then all of a sudden I could breathe. I mean, and it was stunning how quick and how decisive that change was. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, they could be. You're right about the dairy. I heard a lot of people, even when they're doing the keto, they were saying, just cut out the dairy. And this is just for the black folks, in general, that are just doing it because most of us are lactose intolerant. And a lot of times, that lactose intolerant, it could be in the forms of eczema, it could be forms of allergies, itchy skin, everything like that. So when they eliminate the dairy out of it, it made a huge difference. Also, the plants too. I don't know which plants are really triggering it, but I just rather not eat them. And it make
hmm
you know it makes it anything that's on a twig and branch. I just try to avoid them because I have a fear of it. That
hmm
will it would do these allergies and stuff.
yeah. I mean, I would guess, like, if people really, really still want to eat plant material, I would guess that fruit is going to be the least offensive of things. um,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, things like berries are sort of designed to be eaten, right?
Right.
And and then the animal's supposed to walk away from the plant, poop it out somewhere else, and then it grows. Or I don't know. That's my understanding of what fruit is. So conceivably, that's the part of the plant that most wants to be eaten and is going to be least a problem. But at this point, we have all been so inflamed, so exposed to seed oils and other unnatural chemicals that, we're not like natural beings anymore. So we can't go back in that respect and do what our ancestors did, who were never exposed to any of this stuff. And that's one of the things that kind of, well, this is an aside, but one of the things that frustrates me in the carnivore community, people are talking about, this, well, what do they call it? The Roni Rona. And they're like, if you just eat right and follow this, you're like, everything will be fine. And it's like, first of all, I mean, yeah, there have been pandemics before. And in those times, everybody ate organic. There was no
Mm-hmm.
difference. Everyone was eating
Yeah.
grass fed and organic. And, still the bubonic plague, I mean, it killed like 1/3 or 2/3 of all of Europe. So it's
Yep.
not like, eating this way it does give us superpowers, but it does not make us immune to death. And so we still die, we still get hurt, we still get in car accidents, and we can still get sick. So
Mm-hmm.
I get frustrated when I hear people like just get a little too, I don't know, sort of dogmatic and holier than thou with all of this.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then we were talking about, you mentioned about seed oils. I remember one time when I was doing the vegan, there was like, oh,
Hmm.
you're eating all the estrogen and all that with the soy and all, and
Hmm.
I part was. Then my rebuttal was like, well, your fried chicken is fried in vegetable oil, which is soy. So
Yeah,
so it's like, calling was it the pot the kettle type
yeah.
of
The
analogy.
pot, yeah, the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah, but and I'm just kind of wondering if the high amount of estrogen that's in that soil and vegetable. What I'd like to tell people, I say, if you got, just look in your pantry, get the vegetable oil. It says soy, and then go look up how much estrogen is in it. It's one of the highest amounts out of any plants. Also, it's just inflammatory. I can't wait till we talk about that one, but
Yeah. Yeah, we're
it's
totally going to talk about inflammation. I think we're going to do that next week, but there were a bunch of people that wanted to be here and be part of that conversation. So we are going to do
did he say something bad about fried chicken? Don't quote
it.
me on it.
Yeah.
I,
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I was just looking at some of the comments. Yeah, I see Life Junkie says I reversed my RA with diet. I remember starting with Atkins. That's awesome.
Mm,
Congratulations. We got to get that, your success story out there.
mm-hmm.
Let's post that on Instagram. And then Heather says the spiritual community seems to think meat lowers your vibration, bit, but going carnivore played a major role in her spiritual awakening. I 100% couldn't agree with you more, Heather. Once I started listening to my body, it's like my whole body started listening. So, and it started talking. So, yes, my spiritual awakening happened too after going carnivore because, now that I'm listening, everybody's talking.
Mm. That's really good. The spiritual way, I hear a lot. I remember some people would say the sun and the plants would give the spiritual awakening, but then you have brain fog. It's like, I can't think now. But
Hmm.
yeah, I look at the spiritual awakening as inner strength, what I could do for myself. Now I feel more empowered. I feel more motivated. I feel a sense of peace with it. I think that's one of the greatest attributes about the spiritual awakening. This one analogy that I always remember is about this painting, and the painting was like a storm that was going on. Someone drew this painting with a
Hmm.
storm, and you could see the winds blowing, and you have a bird in the bottom picture of it, or the bottom corner on the right side on the
Hmm.
branch, and singing the song. And it's like this bird has this peace in the middle of this huge storm. And so I think I look at the spiritual awakening as that where I can now that I have control. Now I can think, I can have energy. Yeah, and all these things are adding up towards my spiritual strength. And now I feel like I have more peace. And when you have more peace, guess what? Your mental health is a lot better.
Mhm.
And when your mental health is a lot better, then you are like this light and people can see this glow on you. And it's like, man, what are you doing? Or, and I'm sure you get these questions like,
Yeah.
what happened? You got this glow on you, and you can
Yeah.
see it in your skin, you can see it in your smile, and all that. It's because I got peace. And it has to do with a cow, but I'm not gonna go that deep into it. Then you might scare them off. He's like, oh no, you're sacrificing and all this. So,
Well, large picture says cooking greens with fat back and neck bones, and it was so that the greens tasted like meat, and you knew they were greens, but it tasted like meat.
mm,
100%, yeah, absolutely. And I was actually having a conversation with somebody yesterday. Like my grandmother switched to using smoked turkey necks as opposed to ham hocks back in like I guess the 80s because it was like, oh well, that stuff's not healthy anymore, let's make soul food healthier. And so she switched to that, and that's what I kind of grew up on. But yeah, I feel like we got sold a bill of goods in the 80s, and all of these things morphed. She went from using butter to using margarine because that was supposed to be healthier. Yeah.
wow. Yeah, back in the '80s, that's where that it wasn't that trans fat Crisco was going around. And
Hmm.
I remember my grandmother, she used to cook with that all the time. I never knew what it was. I just knew it didn't really melt that well. And so I was like, as I got older, I was like, what is this mess that you're
Yeah.
cooking with? It was cheap. But I don't even know I don't know if it was wax or what
Hmm.
this stuff is. But it's unfortunate because, you know, um, my grandparents, they didn't have a lot of money. They had like an old wooden house. In the back was like a dump ground, which literally was a dump ground. And I
Hmm.
remember growing up, me and my cousins was go out there and grab some toys. It's like, ooh, look, we got some new toys and stuff, dump ground. But just just those memories of her cooking, but I could see being in poverty during the time how it made her decisions of cooking healthier foods versus bad foods. Now we have alternative where you don't have to do the lard and the fat back. Oh, here's a big blue can of Crisco. Now it's
Hmm.
really cheap, and these things just start spiraling and stuff. And
Hmm.
a lot of things have to do with education about knowing how we are being poisoned. It's almost like I almost want to say I want to use the word systematic racism when it comes to black communities because you go to different communities. What do you have? Liquor stores. You have fried. Well, I don't want to say fried chicken. But you have you have fast food restaurants on every corner.
Hmm.
You don't. You have all I see now. I have like this new. Oh, here's another one. Pandemic cry. I have a new superhero attribute now. It's like I have this X-ray vision. Now when I see all the restaurants, I see inflammation. I see
Hmm.
diabetes on that one. Oh, here's your fried heart disease. So
Yeah.
that's my new superhero. Like Clark Kent and Superman. I can see through BS. I guess I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but
No, I mean, I totally get it too. And
yeah.
I look at these places and it's just not appealing. Like the things that were once appealing, it's not appealing to me anymore. And, I know that it just is, there's just too high a price to pay for eating some of these foods. Okay, so large picture. Thank you. I appreciate you like my shoulders. Thank you. Rienne Africaine is off of Flonase, and also Claritin doesn't miss it.
Mm.
And Chase says Savannah GA also has a crap ton of ragweed. Ask me how I know. Because I know how you know. Yeah, and and the pandemic carnivore says she was on all that stuff too. The nasal pot. Yeah, so I did that. The
Oh, I
neti
had that
pot.
neti pot. Yeah, I
Yeah,
had that too. It was
yeah,
crazy.
and sinus infections. Yeah, and I
Mm.
remember actually listening to a story on NPR, and they were talking about how most sinus infections were like not infections but fungi, and like notoriously hard to kill and really hard to get the, because the sinus cavities, I guess, have a narrow hole, and so they can get blocked
Hmm.
very easily by mucus, and then what's in there, like, just grows, and mold grows, and I don't know. So that's what they were saying, but they were saying
Mm.
it's really hard to treat them, and we go through all these courses of antibiotics, and well, sorry, guys, cover your ears for a second, but every time I take antibiotics, I get a yeast infection. So it got to the point where I would go to the doctor and be like, I've got, a sinus infection, and can you also give me some diflucan? And, but, that was super frustrating. But, to know that you're like killing off bacteria throughout your body and it's actually, causing a lot of problems is a big deal. And then,
Mm.
but once I got off keto and actually went carnivore, I have not since had a problem with either of things. So no more medications, no more sinus infections, no more head things, no more neti pot, you know.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
used to hate that neti pot. It
Mhm.
was sting, and I was like, I get everything, and
Yeah.
yeah, our body wants to heal. That's what it naturally is designed to do. You get a cut,
Mhm.
it heals, but we just don't allow it because of the foods that we eat. So once you get back to normal eating, how our
Mhm.
ancestors did, you'll notice that, hey, I'm healing fat. It seems amazing, but then if you think back thousands of years ago, hey, you get a tiger come and chew your arm off, he'll that's
Mhm.
probably a bad analogy, but you'll heal pretty quick, and yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see what else is in here. Sharif Taylor, did he say something bad about fried chicken? No, no, no. And we can still have fried chicken. I make it with pork rind crust.
Pork rinds,
Delicious.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Are we able
Turkey
to
should
send?
be off.
So large picture asks, are we able to send relative links in the chat? Relevant links in the chat. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead, put a chat in. Angel Life, awesome to see you. So glad you're here. Um, and yeah, Erica notices that black carnivores, have eyes that are very clear and bright with bright whites and none of the yellowing, so associated with age. That's right. Do eyes get yellower as we get older?
Hmm.
I feel like I've noticed that too.
Yeah, that'd
Um,
be interesting. I wonder why.
hmm Yeah. Um, so yeah, in large picture, you're right. We're always told about the vitamins and minerals in plants, but well, this is why I posted. Well, I wonder if I can pull it up in here. They have this chart in this book that shows you the vitamins and minerals in. They compare four different foods. I think blueberries, um, kale, and um, beef, and then beef liver. And so when you
Hmm.
talk about who's got all the vitamins, like all the vitamins are in the beef and all the vitamins are in the beef liver. There's hardly any in the blueberry
Wow.
and any in the kale. So, and especially when you're talking about equivalent amounts, you're just not going to get the vitamins, and so I feel like when people say that to me now, I kind of want to pull up this chart, which of course I can't find right now, but I kind of
Hmm.
want to pull up the chart and say, "Hey, tell me which food you think is important to eat. What do you think is nutrient dense? Because that's not nutrient dense."
Yeah, what large picture we're saying was something that I talk about a lot about quantity versus quality. So, for example, let's say some beans maybe have 25 grams of protein. You have a steak, 25 grams of protein. A lot of the people say, well, you get your protein from that, but you really don't absorb that protein. You don't absorb the quality of that protein, even though it might have a certain amount of nutrients. It doesn't mean that you're going to absorb it. One of the tests, which is a TMI also, that I like
Mm-hmm.
to tell people is look at your stools. When you eat
Mm-hmm.
corn, when you eat kale, when you eat these beans, they're in the same form. It's in the same form. Your digestive
Yeah.
tract is not pulling those nutrients out
Yeah.
of that. And that's why when you're on this vegan diet for a long time, you're malnutrition, and then you
Yeah.
becoming muscle loss, and now you're looking like you aged 20 years, when you're only 19 years old and you look 70. So because your body is not absorbing these, and I learned
Yeah.
this the hard way. So
Yeah.
I was like, why am I not, I'm looking, I got little tiny arms and a big belly on a vegan diet. It's like, well, I'm not getting my protein.
Yeah.
The only way that a lot of people can get their protein is from that protein powder, like pea protein powder, where it's easily absorbed. But if we're talking about whole foods,
Hmm.
just look at your stools. It's a science experiment. Just call it a science experiment, and eat some corn and just see. They had this one meme where like the corn was like on a slide. And it was like, "Yay, I want to go again." it was like
Okay,
having
that's
fun.
funny. Well, I found the chart. Hold on one sec while I hold it up. I don't know if you all. Oops, that's the wrong one. I don't know if you can all see this, but yeah, it's not focused. So you see, it's got apples, blueberries, kale, and beef. And beef, everything is dark red. Almost everything is dark red. So you see that it is, just by looking at the colors, not exactly the numbers, but you can see it's the most nutrient dense food. So, you know, it's kind of like if you're focusing on nutrient density alone, that leads you to eat a vitamin pill because that's the most nutrient dense food that doesn't have calories and the most vitamins for your bang for your buck. But that's not food. Like I don't trust
Hmm.
a human being to do better than Mother Nature.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good chart. Maybe, I mean, it would be nice for everybody to see this in
Hmm.
comparison because our belief system has to be changed.
Yeah.
And, I think that's the problem is that we holding on to beliefs where we really didn't even
Hmm.
do a research on it to see if we could validate those belief systems. Like, is it really true that, this is this and meat has all these ingredient or minerals and vitamins? Is it really true? And so, I think I'm seeing the black carnivore movement is that's the I guess stay woke people. Stay woke, learn about your meats.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I see HSJ HSH asks if people eat enough animal fat, can they gain weight on carnivore, or is it inevitable that they'll lose weight? I think yes, you can gain weight. I mean, calorie. Well, in my opinion, anyway, calories. I don't encourage people to count calories or really think about food in that way. But energy. I mean, we have a certain amount of energy requirement, and then if we go over and above that significantly, I think weight gain is inevitable. Now, whether it's as bad or negative um, for your body as gaining weight from eating sugar, like that's certainly debatable. But I think it is possible. Though I think you have to kind of put your head down and power through and really try. But I've definitely gone through some bulletproof coffee days where it's like I've eaten hundreds more calories than I needed to, and yeah, you can put on fat. How
Yeah,
about you?
maybe
Did
too
did
much
you
of a good
experience that?
thing could be a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, sometimes these things are tasty, and drinking. I think drinking your food generally is not a good idea because it's I don't know. There's something about chewing that like is part of the satisfaction. If there's no chewing,
Yeah.
like you might consume hundreds of calories but not feel like you ate.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. I'm okay. I do coffee with bone broth is really good. I mean, not coffee with bone broth. Did I say that wrong? No, butter with bone broth. That's
oh,
right.
instead of
So,
coffee.
well, I do coffee too, but I do what I what I do like sometimes if I eat a little bit later, I'll just do chicken or beef bone broth
Uh
and
huh.
add some 2 tablespoons of butter in there. Oh, it's really satisfying, really
Nice.
satisfying. So, I love doing that.
Huh. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow because I still have
Yeah.
a lot of tallow and I am trying to get off coffee. I go back and forth on it, guys, but I want to get off again. But I like to have like a frothy hot beverage in the morning.
Right, me too.
Yeah,
I'm not perfect with it, but I still love coffee.
yeah. So large picture, you says you're gonna have to post that pork crust recipe. Actually, it's already up on my channel. I think I did chicken, yeah, like a fried chicken tenders sort of recipe. So go take a look for it. Yeah, Angel Life, your husband's seasonal allergies are gone. That's awesome. And you're in South Florida, so yeah, I hope you're safe out there. Um, and hey, so pandemic carnivore still working with the allergies. Yeah, I mean, sometimes these things take a while, definitely. Um, okay, so cataracts form slowly, and they can give a yellowish cast to your eyes. Gotcha.
Okay.
Wow. Well, Angel Life, you look great. You're 68, but looking great. Um, that's awesome. Let's see. I'm sorry. Large picture says a vegan told him one time that poop should be colorful.
They will probably say something like that. Yeah.
Oh,
And it's supposed to be like glittering gold, and like a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, and they'll say anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So Rienne African says carbs are easy for her to quit, but she still fights the urge to eat veggies. Um,
Okay.
and have we experienced that? So there's no vegetable that I liked so much that like I'm like, oh. I mean, um, I would say the last vegetable thing that I cheated with was um, spaghetti sauce. Like I did like to make spaghetti sauce with ground beef and some like sausage in it, and eat that with like cheese or sour cream on top. But there's little about that meal that my body liked, but my mouth did. But other than that, like candy is the only other thing I wanted. How about you, Rashad?
Yeah, I kind of look at that question as I don't think all the vegetables are like evil or the devil or anything. And I like to tell people that, you know, the lifestyle itself is not a religion. It's not saying, oh, if you eat a bell pepper, then you're going to go to the vegan hell or anything. So it's not anything like that. In fact, yesterday I made fajitas, of course, without the bread, but with bell peppers, and I had some bell peppers with it. Um, do I do it all the time? No, I do it maybe rare, maybe once a week, twice a week, or maybe some avocados. But if it's not going to affect you with your weight loss or health or any type of issue, I don't see a problem with that. I think there might be, like, some people say there's carnivore-ish, where you still doing a carnivore diet if you're doing what, maybe 75%, 80%. I don't know what the number is. But there's a sweet spot there where, if you want your vegetables and just along they're not starchy or anything like that, to continue that lifestyle. And there's going to be times where you mess up and slip up and have that craving. You just back. I always say take 2 steps back, but 10 steps forward. Get back on track. It's not the end of the world to have a avocado or anything like that.
Yeah,
And some people are just really successful once they reach their ideal weight, their ideal goal. They feel great. They might add a little bit more vegetables in, and that's fine. So I'm
yeah,
not I don't come hard on that. I like to make it where it's easy. It's way better than trying the sad diet or anything like that. I'd rather for you to eat some vegetables than to feel deprived and then you go back, oh, I can't do it right and it's so hard. And then you go back and relapse and we have to go and save you again. So I'd rather for that I'd rather for you to have your 10%, 20% vegetables and you still reaching your ideal goal.
yeah. And I think that's such an awesome point. Like, this is not a religion. This is about getting Black people healthy. So, however we get there, that's the goal. And we have found a path that's really worked for us, and we want to share that with other people. Now, at Black Carnivore, the way we look at it is according in zoology, a hypercarnivore is any animal that eats 70% or more of its daily diet from animal foods. So, by that definition, anybody from keto to an all meat diet, we're all carnivores. So, our goal is to normalize eating meat and to encourage people to do it because that's really the quickest path to health. And then along the way, you got to figure out, where your personalized place is. And for me, I have a ton of allergies, and I have been allergic to soy since birth, but eating it, and probably allergic to corn since birth as well. But I didn't realize that so many of the problems I had were coming from something that nobody knew or thought that I was allergic to. So once I took that out, I had a lot of improvement. But there are other people, who can eat soy and it's not, they don't have this immediate huge reaction. So I think, it's always a bit of experimentation to kind of figure out like where you fall and what things that you can have. And then, you know, that's your plan. But you also have to keep experimenting because as you get older, the longer we've been broken and the longer we've been assaulting our bodies, like the less that we can deal with as we get older. So, we do expect that over time there may be things that we're less able to eat, but then you might have more healing. So by 70, you might be like, oh, I guess I can have some bell peppers and there's no problems. So I think it's all about experimentation. And let me just put in a shameless plug really quickly. I do think it's really helpful to get some coaching because figuring out those kinds of details in the beginning can be hard. And that's what I do. So you can reach out to me. Okay, shameless plug over. You can plug yourself too, Rashad.
No, it's fine. No, you're great. Yeah, I think that's great. Reach out to you for the coaching because these questions come up. Sometimes some people might hear the end part
Hmm.
of the conversation we're doing, or some people might have a fear about it. It's like, oh, I'm gonna be deprived, and just let you know that there's tips, there's tools. It's just tools for success, and I think that's what a great coach does best. So, yeah,
All right.
giving you the tools to success. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And helping you figure out how to experiment. Not everybody is like, a scientist or likes to do that, but that's, you just kind of have to, you just have to have a little bit of guidance. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, pandemic carnivore. She talks about that. She gained like 35 pounds, I think, from keto. But eating a ton of butter because there are factions within the community that are like, oh, you have to eat this number of grams of butter or this amount of this, and that's why I also am really kind of opposed to setting up macros and telling people what to eat. I mean, there is a minimum amount of protein that you need, and there are minimum amounts. But I feel like when we set the macros, then people stop listening to their bodies and they start listening to this formula they got in Vogue or on some website or somebody gave them, and so you get just too off track and start doing weird things in order to hit that macro because like I mean meat comes in whatever proportion it comes in, and then for me to try to change that means I've got to add fat. How do I add fat? In it's basically a processed fat. There's no, I mean, because of the world that we live in, you don't usually get to just walk into the store and just buy a bag of fat without asking. So if you don't know to do that, where do you get this fat other than a bottle, which is processed, or from butter, which is it's natural, but it is also processed, and it does have it can be a problem if you're very sensitive to dairy. So it's
Right. Yeah,
something to
that's a good point.
yeah, and especially too for people who are trying to lose weight. I always think like and say to them like dairy is designed to grow a baby cow into a full grown one. So all milk, like its very nature is to grow something very small to very big. So if you're done growing and you're trying to shrink, why would you eat something that's about making you grow? So that's not to say you can never have dairy, but maybe if you're really trying to lose, like put it to the side and then come back to it and see how you do. Um, Yeah, large picture says it's hard to gain weight eating meat. You have to actually try. I think if you're an emotional eater, um, you may be able to because you might still be eating beyond satiety. But if you're listening to just being satisfied, like it just probably won't happen. You're right. Coffee is a plant. Yes, absolutely right. Invincible, thank you so much. Please hit the like button. It helps the video get out to more people. Love it. Awesome. Bone broth with butter whiz in a blender is delicious. Danita, that sounds
Mhm.
so delicious. I can't tell you. I want it right now. But I'm going to wait until morning. Um, and yeah, Angel Life, some people try for the ratio of 80-20 or 75-25, but they track it so they don't overdo either. Yeah, so I mean, it's not to say that those proportions don't. Those came from. I think that those came from looking at what people who were hunter gatherers were actually eating. So there were some, I think there were some ethnographies that were used to model what hunter gatherers were actually eating, and that's where they came up with this 80-20 ratio in the first place. So it's a reflection of what people were actually doing. So I think it's fine to kind of focus on what you're doing and what makes you feel good. So it can be helpful, I think, to track for some period of time to see kind of where you are. But then you want to move into, as much as you can, listening to your own body's response. And but it can be hard because we've been so taught as to to restrict fat and to also restrict salt, that when people say eat lots of fat, if I say that to five people will say, yeah, I eat a ton of fat. And then you look at their plate and like one is eating two times the amount the other is, and they both think that they're eating a lot of fat. So I feel like sometimes, without pictures and without looking, it's really hard to tell. And sometimes you got to just experiment and try, you know, something very different.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know if that made sense.
a great documentary that opened my eyes to was called The Magic Pill. I don't know if
Mhm.
anybody watched that one yet, but that's probably a good way to start to see a comparison of how, or maybe our ancestors or someone that's more tribal, eat off the land, which is pretty much just meat and a few berries and a few tubers, there, versus the Western colonization that came in with the rice, the beans, the cereals. And you can see now it's like there was no such thing as diabetes and these Western diseases, and now they're plagued with it. And I guess the whole purpose or the narrative of the documentary was to show them from where they came to how to get back to that same lifestyle of eating. I mean, it's incredible, transformation. I think there was one, maybe there was a kid on there with autism,
Mhm.
and they had them on. It was amazing. They had them on the more of a, I think it was like a carnivore maybe, but a lot of fat with the steak, and they showed a huge improvement of his speech and how he was talking and actually making full sentences
Mhm.
before when eating the just the westernized diet, or we call the SAD diet. Uh, the Magic Pill, that's the name of the documentary, is really amazing. They even go
Yeah,
into the
maybe a
ecosystem.
pandemic carnivore. Maybe you can put a link in the chat.
Yeah, I think it was on Netflix, maybe. I believe it was on Netflix, but you could
Hmm.
probably look it up on there. And it's one of my things I tell people, just watch it. It's amazing. It talks about the Aboriginals, basically in Australia, and these guys were. It was the best comparison because here's these people that were living the land and they've been there all this time and no one knew about them really. And then here you go, oh, they're all healthy and strong. Well, let's go introduce them to some cereal because maybe they need it. And so they
Yeah.
they go give them these sodas, cereals, and you could just see from
Hmm.
the 1960s and 1970s what they were just in the bushes, whatever, but healthy, no heart disease, perfect teeth, white teeth, strong, muscular, everything, bone structure. And then you could see over this period of time where their health just deteriorated. And even they were even talking about the mental health, the depression. But I thought it was amazing just seeing the young kid with autism and how it was just remarkable, where it was a huge improvement with his speech. Oh yeah, the Maasai tribe too. I study them a lot. I love talking about the Maasai tribe. That's another perfect example. But what I like about the magic pill is that you can see the cause and effect of the Western culture of how
Yeah.
they it's just like a virus. It's like this food, the way this is designed, is like a virus. Once the Western civilization comes into the area, then sickness starts. And it's like they were fine,
Yeah.
by themselves. They don't need saving grace from anybody. I don't, but now they think, oh, you need to be saved, and here's some stuff to give you. So you don't have to
Yeah.
work for your food anymore. You could just get a box of cereal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that is a really good point, actually, because when you look at the, you know, like the studies or the ethnographies of people around the world, when in the 60s and 70s, this aid, quote unquote aid, was introduced, so much changed, and I think, I mean, I have to remember that at that time, um, people really thought that there was going to be worldwide starvation and that we had to produce enough food no matter what, and it had to get out there. But, we have to remember that starvation is, I mean, it's a political problem. It's not an
Right.
environmental problem. So, there for sure have been times like, things grow one season here and another season there, and people moved around and went to where the food was. But once you create these political boundaries, once you create all of these, all of the effects of colonialism, then people can't move around. And that's how you end up with these situations where people are starving. But,
Mm-hmm.
and then we send them garbage, garbage to eat. And it's
Yeah.
just like, we steal their land, steal their people, and
Yeah.
take their food. And then, and one of the things I really appreciated about listening to Gary Taubes, he was always making this argument. It's the starch and the grains that made us sick. And he's like, look, when you're looking at populations that are really poor, you see, mothers who are really heavy and overweight and kids who are starving. And he's like, what mother is going to eat food that their child is starving for? So
Mm.
something else is happening to make these people obese and yet starve at simultaneously. And I was like, yeah, you know, okay, that is a great question.
Mm-hmm.
That really makes you start thinking about, like, why is this happening? What is happening here?
Mm. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, Angel Life says we may find that autism may be caused by the mother's diet and all the processed foods.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And Raven, yeah, we were programmed to eat whatever diet that the TV doctor said would help us to get healthy, like vegan. And the work of Weston A. Price is great to see that effect. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Weston A. Price.
Mhm.
I think he was the one that went to what is it? The North, was it Alaska maybe, and lived a year with the
Oh, I think you're
Eskimos.
thinking of Stefanson. So Weston A.
That's
Price
it.
was
That's it.
a
That's it.
yeah.
That's it.
So Weston A.
Okay.
Price was a dentist, and he went all over
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Africa. But Stefanson, yes, went and lived with the Inuit in well, I guess the Arctic Circle. And
Hmm.
in fact, he wrote a book, and I got a whole bunch of people to read a chapter each of the book. So if you want to listen to the book, it is in my on my YouTube channel. It's out of print, so usually people get like a PDF copy or something like that. So it's like a photocopy of a photocopy. So it's kind of easier to listen to. So I encourage you all to go check that out. And I did see somebody
Yeah.
question earlier about Stefanson giving recommendations on how much Yeah, that was Sharif Taylor on how much fat to protein. And I think Stefan said, I do remember him saying something like 7 pounds of lean to 1 pound of fat. But
Mhm.
in further reflection, when he said, when he was referring to lean, he was referring to like the leg of the animal, which includes, the hoof, the bone, and
Mhm.
tendons, and lots of parts that we don't eat. So, but I think what they actually end up eating is similar to that 80-20 or 75-25 ratio that we talk about. So, yeah.
Wow.
hmm It was
So we've
actually
been,
an interesting book, though, to hear about his experience eating this way, and how helpful it was.
yeah, I think I like the case against sugar. Gary Taubes talks a lot about that as well. So it's a really interesting read. It's so many books that you absorb from
Mhm.
with information. So I wish there was like another documentary or movie that could just break all this down into a visual aspect or anything, so we could make it like quick and easy.
Well, who's going to make that movie?
Hey, Black Carnivore. We maybe we have some media and
Yeah,
some people with some videography, and you never know. Let's call Tyler Perry, see if we can get him on board.
yeah, that might be a new approach. Yeah.
Never
Um,
know.
well, there were some intriguing threads that I wanted to pull. I think on one of my posts, somebody was talking about, and I don't quite remember all the details, but was talking about how in Africa they were, as a means of control, they were trying to convince people to eat vegan um, because it makes you weaker and not able to fight back or push back. And I don't remember all the details of the post, but it was really interesting. So if anybody
I've
here
heard that.
saw that or knows what I'm referring to, please put it in the chat because I would definitely like to do some research.
Yeah, I know that they were doing there was a study of a comparison of different tribes, ones that ate all meat versus the ones that were eating. They weren't really vegans, because a vegan thing is like pretty much new
hmm
here. But I think this tribe was eating a lot of plants, like maybe 80% plants, and they showed like the strength, the bone structure. It shows where the ones with the meat eaters, they were just a better tribe. They were stronger. They took out everybody. So. Yeah, I mean, just that alone, most herbivores get eaten. So I don't want to be, I don't want to be the bottom of the food chain. I want to be at the top of the food chain.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we are not herbivores. We don't have stomach acid at 4 pH. We have stomach acid aligns at 1 to 1.5. We digest meat, and
Yeah.
when we mess up that acidic part in the body, that's where the problems come into the gut issues and the bloating.
Yeah.
Because we're not, yeah, but
Yeah.
the new book, Sacred Cow, will become a film. And the
Yeah. I'm
Sacred Cow's
looking
a pro.
forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Who was the author again? It just came out, right? Like, or it came out like yesterday or today.
I don't know what there is. Yeah. To
Yeah.
stop men from being aggressive in Africa. Ah, that's interesting. That might work to stop men from being aggressive in Africa. I've also heard something like, have you heard anything where they said the women's menstrual cycle is not normal? Have you heard anything like that? It's
hmm
weird. Like you're supposed to be on a vegan diet will help you, I guess, not to procreate. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I think there was a conversation for a while about maybe 10 years ago, more women were getting continuous birth control pills so that they wouldn't have a period. I mean, basically, when you're on the pill, you've got 3 weeks of the hormones that you're taking, and then 1 week where you're not taking any, and that allows you to have a menstrual cycle. But there are people who are just taking the pill continuously, so they never have that break. And so I feel like that's when there was a lot of conversation about whether it was even normal to have so many periods, and that in fact we probably spent much more of our lives pregnant and so not having a period. And the
Hmm.
pill sort of mimics being pregnant, I guess. And so I don't know. So that's what people said. I was kind of like, I don't know. But no, we
Yeah,
need to be being fertile is normal. Not
according
being
to
fertile.
vegans, not. I've heard this from one of the guys. His name is Yada. I think they call him Yada Awakening. He used to really preach hard about, it's not normal for women to have their menstrual cycles and all this, and then they try to have babies and they can't, because they can't, they pretty much damage their, I don't know.
So wait, what does
That,
he
that
say? So is a woman supposed to be fertile, or what? Or does
I
he think that those things are
well,
separate?
Well, he says there was two of them. Well, Yada, I know he was saying that the menstrual cycle is not supposed to be normal. Women are not supposed to have it at all. And he was saying because your body's supposed to be alkaline, and he goes deep into this spirituality about it. I forgot the other guy's name, but he actually uh, it's called the Melanin TV or something like that. He was really big on it, and he used to go really hardcore about going vegan. Now he quit vegan. He's eating meat again, which is pretty interesting. So he was the one that was saying about. I might be misquoting, so I'm trying to remember this. I need my carnivore superpowers to kick in right now. But he was saying something like women, it would being a vegan will stop the fertilization. It was weird. I don't know. It lost me, and so that's probably I don't remember why I don't remember too much about it.
So I mean, but I guess the question I have is, did he have the expectation that vegan women should have children, or was he advocating like not
He didn't say.
being fertile? Okay, all right,
Yeah, he didn't say. It was weird. After a while,
yeah.
it just goes like all left and stuff.
Yeah.
It
Large
is.
picture, totally. Seventh Day Adventists. This is very much a part of their language, and they, they have definitely been behind a lot of what's been going on. I mean, I'd love to, really explore like Kellogg and Post and those guys who created the
Mhm.
cereal. Like a lot of them were Seventh Day Adventists, and a lot of our ideas about like elimination or what should be had for breakfast, and the bran and the fiber in these foods that definitely came from there. And I definitely grew up with that, where my family, I mean, my dad is still a vegetarian, and apparently I was a vegetarian the first 5 years of my life, but constantly ran after people trying to eat their hot dogs and whatnot. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the 7 Day Adventists they really became a lot popular whenever the Blue Zone Solutions study
No,
came
even
out.
before. I
Yeah,
mean,
even
when
before,
I was a
because I
kid,
never heard about. Yeah.
yeah, when I was a kid, I think there was a Seventh Day Adventist cookbook that came out like in the late '60s, early '70s, and so that was like the first cookbook, like in the movement in the Black community, where people started taking those ideas and thinking about being, vegetarian. And in fact, one of my friends when I was growing up, like they had removed milk from the diet, and because they didn't think that that was healthy, which I guess it's not, but their daughter ended up with rickets, and that was
Mm,
before a lot of the stuff was, you know, reinforced, or I don't know, they had extra vitamins and stuff added. So back then, if you didn't eat milk, you didn't get, I guess vitamin D, or of course sunlight and
wow.
meat and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean there are real side effects to eating this way, and to putting kids on it as well. So
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So we've been about 2 hours.
oh
Should
yeah, I
we?
know. We
Yeah,
should wrap up.
I need to cook some steak now. Nature boy, that's it. That's it. We have to reject the vegan dogma from woke. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What's interesting, Nature boy, he actually is not doing the vegan anymore. He was really critical. He used to criticize Dr. Sebi really bad, but he's now made a video. I think that he's eating fish and everything. So people, to me, they're starting to come out of it. After a while, you can only take so much of this brutal pain of eating plants, twigs, and branches and dirt. Eventually your body, you're gonna have to listen to your body and start eating some real food, some meat, and I think that's what we're starting to see that's happening.
Yeah. Well, we have had an amazing conversation tonight. I
Yes.
have so enjoyed it. And thank you all in the chat for being here and asking great questions and really bringing the conversation along. I've been impressed by how many of you are here and how much you press the like button. And I hope also the subscribe button and click the little bell icon so you get all the notifications. And yeah, I just have really enjoyed it tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. It is I mean, a lot of traffic in the chat box. That's awesome. So
Yeah,
it's staying engaged, and I hope it was definitely beneficial and educational for everyone. Just this is family,
yeah,
family.
absolutely. And I'm going to put the link in the description after we close the video. So I definitely want you to sign up for the email list and, join the Black Carnivore family.
All right.
All right, guys. Good night.
All right. Good night. Take care.